AI tools are taking over the workforce, replacing jobs and reshaping entire industries. But how soon will humanoid robots replace human workers? Let's get into the studies, projections, and all the latest AI dope.
Okay, so picture this, right? You're just walking down the street and you see robots, like actually building a skyscraper.
Yeah.
Instead of construction workers, it's robots laying bricks and, I don't know, putting up steel beams.
Yeah.
It sounds like something straight out of like a sci-fi movie, you know?
Totally.
But a blog post from Rethink X argued that this is, well, it could be real, maybe even within the next decade. They're saying that if we really went all in on investing in humanoid robots, we could see like crazy economic growth.
Yeah.
Like to the point where robots could actually outnumber humans in the workforce.
It's a pretty bold vision, right?
Yeah.
But the idea is that these robots would be specifically designed to, like, interact with our world.
Right.
And they could just completely change how productive we are as, like, a society.
I get the concept, but like I'm having trouble wrapping my head around the like how of it all.
Yeah.
How do we go from robots stocking groceries, which we see now, to like robots being everywhere? And also this huge economic boom. How's that all supposed to happen?
Oh, I think a good place to start is by looking at the cost.
Yeah.
Rethink X is saying that making a humanoid robot could end up costing less than $20,000.
Okay.
And they compared that to, well, what it costs to raise a human child, which is about $300,000 in a developed country.
So robots are cheaper. Okay, I see where they're going with this.
Yeah.
But is that like the main thing driving this? I mean, is it just that robots are cheaper in the long run than people?
Well, it's a huge factor, no doubt about it. But it's not just about the initial cost. Robots, well, they can work all the time.
24/7, right?
Exactly, 24/7. They never take vacations. They never complain about working the night shift. And you can retrain them like instantly for new tasks. Quick ask. Almost 95% of you watch our videos but still aren't subscribed. Please click subscribe. It really helps us grow. And if you're not loving our content, you can always change your mind. Thanks, and back to it.
So you're saying like robots could be working 3 shifts in a row,
Yeah.
never get tired, and then be ready to, I don't know, switch to a totally different job at a moment's notice.
Yeah, exactly. And on top of all of that, you wouldn't have to pay for most of the stuff that comes with having human employees.
Okay.
You wouldn't need offices, you wouldn't need break rooms. Heck, you might not even need a whole HR department.
Okay, I can already hear the people listening pushing back on this.
Right.
They're going to be saying, like, hold on a second, what about all the jobs lost to robots?
Yeah, that's a huge question, and we're going to definitely talk about that. But before we do, I think it's worth looking at the potential benefits here, at least what Rethink X is highlighting.
Okay, fair enough. And they throw out some pretty crazy numbers. They say that having a robot workforce could double or even triple a country's GDP in just 15 years. Like, is that even possible?
Well, to understand how they got those numbers, we're going to have to dive into the model they used.
Okay.
Now, it's a simplified model, they admit that.
Right.
But it gives us a way to, grasp the potential impact, at least economically.
So tell me about this model. What does it take into account?
Well, the model focuses mostly on the increase in productivity that robots could bring.
Yeah.
Like, imagine, triple the manufacturing output,
Right. Yeah.
but without the added costs of labor.
So is this basically saying we could produce more goods and provide more services, but using way fewer resources?
Exactly. And when you increase productivity, that basically leads to economic growth.
Right.
I mean, that's pretty much economics 101.
So they gave this one example. They said, what if we put 336 million robots in the US, which is like one robot for every person,
Yeah.
and said that would cost like $280 billion per year, which seems like a lot of money.
Yeah, it's a massive investment for sure. But their model shows that doing that could increase our GDP by 240%.
Wow.
And that would lead to a total GDP of $93 trillion.
93 trillion. That's hard to even imagine. So what does that kind of growth mean for people? Like, does that just make rich people even richer? Or is there something more to it?
Hey, want our free AI dope top AI tools that we use? Chat below. It's our live Google Sheets packed with over 100 killer tools, video, music, photos, AI voices, productivity, script writing, YouTube hacks, captions, the works, always growing, live Google Sheet, always free, AI, dope top AI tools that we use. Download and chat below. Back to the show.
Rethink X argues that it's not just about money. They say this level of growth would mean more resources for, well, everything. More for healthcare, for education, for protecting the environment. Basically, it would be easier to solve all of society's big problems.
So it's not just about, like, the bottom line, right? It's more about using technology to actually solve human problems.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where things get really interesting, I think.
Yeah.
If we really could create a world where robots do all the heavy lifting, what would that mean for humans?
Yeah.
What would we do? What would be our purpose?
That's a huge question.
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone really has the answer yet. But it's a question we definitely have to be asking ourselves.
Absolutely. It's not just about the economics. It's about figuring out what it even means to be human in a world where robots are everywhere. You know, it's kind of like what happened with the internet, right? Back when it first came out, nobody could have predicted how much it would, change our lives.
Oh, that's a really good point. I remember when the internet first started becoming a thing.
Yeah.
People were like both super excited and kind of freaked out.
Yeah.
Some saw it as like this tool to connect the whole world.
Right.
But others were worried about, like, what if it gets abused? What if it makes people more isolated?
Yeah.
And now look at us. We can't even imagine life without the internet.
Right.
But we're also dealing with all these new problems like online privacy and misinformation and all that stuff.
Exactly. And that's exactly why it's so important to be having these conversations now about robots.
Yeah.
We can, learn from what happened with the internet.
Right.
And try to, see both the good and the bad that could come from robots becoming so widespread.
Okay, so let's talk about some of the bad stuff.
Okay.
The first thing that pops into my head is jobs. Like, are we talking about millions of people losing their jobs to robots?
It's a valid concern. I mean, anytime there's a big technological change, some jobs get displaced. That's happened throughout history. But the thing is, those changes usually also lead to new opportunities.
Okay.
Like, think about the Industrial Revolution. Machines came in and, they replaced a lot of the manual labor.
Right.
But they also created all these new industries and, tons of new jobs.
So are you saying, history is going to repeat itself?
Yeah.
Like, we might lose some jobs to robots, but then a bunch of new jobs that we can't even imagine yet will pop up?
It's definitely possible,
Okay.
But we also have to be realistic about how big these changes could be and how fast they might happen.
Right.
The transition might not be easy for everyone.
Yeah.
So we need to be proactive, figure out how to get people ready for those changes and, help people adapt.
So what does that look like? Like, are we talking about job retraining programs?
Yeah.
Or, universal basic income?
Maybe even both.
Okay.
I mean, those are both ideas worth exploring. We might see huge demand for people who know how to maintain robots, program them, design them, all that stuff.
Right.
But we also have to think about the people who might not adapt as quickly and maybe need some kind of social safety net.
So it sounds like we need to be tackling this from all sides.
Yeah.
Like looking at both the economic opportunities and the social challenges.
Exactly. It's not just a technological challenge. This is a societal one.
Yeah.
We need to decide what kind of future we want.
Right.
And figure out how to use robots to help everyone, not just a select few.
Okay, that makes sense. But Rethink X brought up another challenge that I wanted to talk about: energy.
Uh-huh.
They said if we have this huge robot workforce, it would take a ton of energy to power them.
Yeah.
So where's all that energy supposed to come from?
Yeah, their estimate was that 100 million robots would use 400 terawatt hours of electricity per year.
Wow.
Which is about 10% of all the electricity we use globally right now.
Yeah, that's a lot of energy.
It's significant, but I don't think it's impossible.
Okay, so where do we get it from?
Right. Well, are we just going to build a bunch of new power plants,
Right.
go back to relying on fossil fuels?
Yeah.
Well, not necessarily.
Well-
We're seeing a lot of progress with renewable energy,
Right.
especially solar and wind power. So it's possible that needing more clean energy to run all these robots could actually speed up the transition to a clean energy future.
Interesting. So it's not all doom and gloom.
Yeah.
Like robots and renewable energy could actually work together.
Exactly. But it also shows how important it is to think about all of this holistically.
Yeah.
Robots aren't just going to impact one part of our lives. It's going to have ripple effects everywhere. Energy, education, social welfare, everything.
Okay, so let's say we figure out the energy problem.
Uh-huh.
We manage to shift the workforce. And we find ways to make sure everyone benefits from robots, not just a few rich people.
Right.
What would that future actually look like? I mean, what does it mean for us as humans if robots are doing most of the work?
That's the big question, right? Rethink X talks about it as like a liberation from drudgery.
Okay.
Like a world where robots do all the boring, repetitive jobs.
Yeah.
And humans get to focus on things they enjoy, things that make them creative, things that allow them to contribute to society in, in more meaningful ways.
It sounds pretty utopian,
Right.
but also a little bit scary. Like, what happens to the idea of work?
Yeah.
To, like, our purpose? If robots are doing all the productive stuff?
Yeah, that's a deep question. And
Yeah.
it's one we need to really think about as a society. Like, what does it even mean to have a meaningful life in a world where work and productivity might not look the same anymore?
It feels like we're at this, like, crossroads. We've got this incredible technology that could change everything.
Yeah.
But it also forces us to make some really hard choices about what kind of future we want.
And those choices will determine whether robots lead to a utopia where everyone benefits or a dystopia full of inequality and, social unrest.
I don't know. It's like we're on the verge of something huge.
Yeah.
Something that could, like, totally rewrite history.
Yeah.
But it's also kind of terrifying.
Right.
Like, how do we even start to prepare for a world run by robots?
I think the first step is realizing that this isn't something that's just going to happen to us.
Okay.
It's not like destiny.
Right.
The future is what we make it.
So what can we do? What choices can we make?
We need to be talking about this everywhere.
Yeah.
At home, in schools, in government. We need to be thinking critically about robots, about what they could mean for us.
Well, Rethink X seems pretty convinced that the benefits outweigh the risks.
Right.
Like, they're arguing that robots could actually, like, free us.
Yeah.
Free us from all the drudgery.
It's a pretty compelling argument.
Yeah.
Imagine a world where robots do all the dangerous jobs, the boring jobs, the jobs that nobody wants to do.
Right.
Then humans would be free to do the stuff that makes us happy. Stuff that lets us be creative. Stuff that lets us contribute to society in new ways.
It's a cool idea.
Yeah.
But it makes you wonder, like, if robots do all the work, what does that make us?
Right. What makes a human life valuable? What gives us purpose? Those are big questions.
Yeah.
And philosophers have been asking them for centuries.
Right.
But now those questions are becoming more and more urgent.
Yeah.
Because technology is changing everything so fast, we might have to completely rethink what it means to work, what it means to relax, even what it means to be human.
So it's not just about adapting to economic changes. It's about, like, a philosophical shift, too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Technology is challenging our basic ideas about the world, about who we are. We have to be ready for that.
Okay, well, let's talk about something a little more practical.
Okay.
Like education.
Yeah.
If robots are going to be everywhere, how do we prepare kids for that world?
We have to give them the skills they'll need to succeed. Skills like critical thinking, problem solving, creativity, adaptability.
Those are all important. But
Yeah.
won't they also need some tech skills?
Absolutely. They need to know about coding, robotics, AI. They need to know how this stuff works. But it's not just about knowing the tech. It's about understanding how it will change society, what the implications are.
So education is key to making sure robots benefit everyone.
It's not just about kids, though. It's about everyone. We all need to keep learning, keep adapting to these rapid changes.
It's a lot to think about. Robots are exciting and scary all at the same time,
Yeah.
but we can't ignore them. This is happening.
So, for everyone listening, think about what we've talked about today. We've covered the potential benefits of a robot workforce, the challenges of job displacement and energy, and the philosophical questions this all brings up. This is just the beginning of the conversation, but hopefully it gives you a place to start. If humanoid robots will soon replace human workers, how are they being trained? Click this next video to find out just how humanoid robots are learning like human beings.